Welcome back to your Psychologist on Speed Dial, where I, Mary Beth Lavender, that friend you call on when you need advice, take your real life questions to my go-to friend, Dr. Dean Hinnitz. Together, we're going to look at your lingering anxiety, ruminating thoughts, or really any of life's tender moments.
Yes.
Look at us.
Yes.
This is exciting.
Yes.
I'm excited. Are you excited?
I'm so appreciative of this moment. You don't even know it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, we have another question to answer.
Good.
And it's another really, I really appreciate these questions. And this is a question that I've actually also had in my past experience working with now. I think I'm on my 5th psychologist.
So I'm 6?
Yeah. So you're my 6th. So, should you expect your therapist to follow up on topics from past sessions, or is it up to you to bring something up if you want to talk about it?
Part of what defines therapy as therapy is there's a thread from beginning to end, thematically, sometimes around life events. And so the therapist should have some sense for this is what came in, here was the presenting issue, which is not always actually the issue, moving into life events, and we should be able to see, as I said, the stream, the connecting thread or cord that runs beginning to end.
So then, yes, you think the therapist should come to you and say, hey, we were working on X, Y, and Z last week. How are you doing this week with X, Y, and Z?
Stylistically, not necessarily. When the session starts, classically, you will wait for the client to start the session. I don't always do that. But there may be other things that I want to see what opens. And the person will sometimes open with what we left with last time. Sometimes some life has intervened. And sometimes what happened last time on the way out the door or whatever, it was hot or had a lot of energy attached to it, or maybe even some shame attached to it. And the client might be waiting for me to reintroduce the topic. I will hold it as a therapist's responsibility to hold it in reserve. And if something was hot or important and not referred to again, then it will be on the therapist to say, we've not revisited this. Have it queued up, have it ready. That's really a therapist keep notes for a lot of reasons. For me, the notes are just memory prompts to follow the thread.
So if this particular person is working with the therapist and maybe this question has been prompted because the therapist isn't following up, right? They're coming back to a session and they're not going back to something that maybe is on this person's heart or mind or whatever. I think, and this might just be me, but like for me, that would make me think that the therapist isn't fully in this client relationship. Because I've had that before. I've had therapists where I want them to follow up on something, but they never do. But I'm the type of person that like, I then just bring it up because I'm like, I also keep notes with what I'm talking about. Like I make notes before I go into my therapist. I'm like ridiculous with therapy. But
that's great. I mean, that's being a good customer, a good client. You're coming in informed and curious. You want to be careful about over attributing what a therapist does. And then again, noticing if you're feeling diminished or feeling like they're not tapped in. I would want, as a client, those of you who are listeners, to present that to your therapist. I would say, we've never come back to this. I wonder why.
Yeah.
To be willing to address what in other relationships might feel unaddressable. The kind of conversations we have with a therapist should be different than we have at a dinner party, oftentimes different than we would have walking around the park together.
Yeah.
Like I brought this up and it never came back and I don't really know why. It could be your therapist is seeing 14 people a day and not reading notes ahead of time. It could be all kinds of things. I would guess it would be more rare that they're not invested.
Right.
Hopefully if something was hot enough, the therapist will do it. If not, I would like as a client to take some responsibility and say, here's what I've noticed. See how it gets handled.
So if it is something that's like burning on you and you want it to be brought up again and your therapist isn't bringing it up again, you have every right to come to your therapist and be like, hey, I would really appreciate if you would follow up with me on this.
You could say, I would appreciate this.
Yeah.
But more, I would be curious. Like, we've not come back to this. You know, help me understand that. As a client, your curiosity about anything is fair play. And you should be able to ask about anything. You can even ask about your therapist. It's on the therapist to say yes or no to what they want to answer.
Right.
But any significant feeling, urge, hurt, frustration, excitement, anything that's attention getting with respect to the relationship with your therapist is valid and important to bring into the room. It's on the therapist, again, to be able to contain it, to tell the truth. And sometimes it's not for a reason that's going to feel very good. It may be the therapist is overwhelmed. It may be over 18 months of meeting, they may have forgotten something that was mentioned in month 4 or month 6. Hopefully the person can say this dropped out of my consciousness. We had so many other things come up that seem more high profile, and I'm really glad you brought it up. Rule from a therapist position is never defend and certainly never attack.
Right.
Because anything that's at the sort of the foreground of a client's concerns or thoughts is relevant and important.
So this person who may be a little hesitant, it sounds like perhaps a little hesitant to bring it up to their therapist, they should feel comfortable, and it's not completely out of like left field for you to be like, we talked about this particular thing. I'd like to talk about it again. Is there a reason why we're not talking about it? Just kind of open that conversation with their therapist and not take it personally that the therapist doesn't care or has forgotten or X, Y, and Z. Therapists are still human, right? There's only so much you can contain, right?
Look at this from another angle.
Yeah.
All relationships are bound by the degree of difficult conversations they can contain. If you can say things that are uncomfortable, potentially hurtful, feedback that might be hard, questions you have, expressions of love or expressions of hurt, all relationships are bound by the degree to which you can go to a difficult conversation. Your therapist or your therapy relationship is supposed to be the place that you practice stepping out of comfort zone, stretching what the limits are, finding out what's appropriate, not appropriate. My job is always to be expanding, growing, also having difficult conversations. If I'm not stepping outside of my comfort zone literally daily, I'm not doing my work. And I have no right to expect my clients to do something I'm not willing to do. I feel like we walk paths together, and I have to be willing to walk them as well.
Yeah.
One of my therapeutic assignments frequently is for my clients to do something scary, something out of comfort zone, something they would have avoided virtually every day.
Wow.
It changes you. It can be small. It can be saying I love you to somebody you haven't or wouldn't. I'm sorry. It can be making eye contact with the checker in the grocery store. Everybody's edge is in a different place.
Yeah.
Some people's edges are way out there. But we're not changing, transcending, growing, or trending to our next self if we are not doing that. And so that is a daily practice. And I want my clients to practice that with me.
Yeah.
And so hopefully you could do that, who's ever listening, with your psychologist or therapist as well.
You might be having a lot more clients after this podcast. People will be like, Dr. Dean, hello, my therapist sucks. No.
I want to thank this listener for their question because it raises 2 points. One is very content specific. Should I address this issue with my therapist? And the other is, should I play outside of my comfort zone in life and with my therapist? And the answer is, if not with your therapist, then with who? That is where to address things, where to bring them out, and how to practice becoming your next self. We're always supposed to practice becoming our next self. And this question leads to that as a process. It has value in it, and it's all as a standalone. So thank you again.
Well, thank you, Dr. Dean, for your sound advice. And we hope that that helps the listener and or listeners. And if you have a question yourself, please head to our show notes. There'll be a link in there where you can anonymously submit a question and we will get to it next time. Thank you. And until next time, I'm saying a lot of next times. Until next time, take good care.